As someone who conducted medical research in Israel a few years ago, I was able to get a very small taste of the innovation atmosphere of the startup nation. So without further ado, in this video, I'll be sharing with you my top 3 favorite medical inventions that come straight from Israel. Number 1, the pill cam. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. With the first model released back in 2001, Israeli inventor Gabriel Idan's genius idea still continues to impress folks, including me, to this day. Here's how it works. You swallow a tiny camera that is encased in a pill-sized capsule, which you'll end up actually pooping out. Oh, let me explain. You see, think of your digestive tract as essentially one big continuous hollow tube, which starts from our mouths and ends in the anus. Okay, so how does this pill camera become so medically relevant? Well, we've all heard about colonoscopies, where doctors essentially stick a wire with a camera on the tip of it, inserting it, well, through your butt. And this is done to look for any potential cancers or bleeding from inside of the digestive tract. But, no pun intended, the colonoscopy can only go down along the very wide portion of our intestines called the colon. Hence the name colonoscopy. At the same time though, we also have what we call an endoscopy, where another wired camera is inserted from the mouth and travels downward along the digestive tract. But this one also goes only to a certain distance, leaving a huge blind spot in the entire middle range of the digestive tract where both the colonoscopy and the endoscopy can't reach. This, my friends, is really frustrating, especially when we suspect that there's a patient with some sort of gastric bleeding along the digestive tract, and both the colonoscopy and endoscopies show that everything is normal. So this is where the genius of the pill cam can be used, where it's swallowed like a normal pill, and it's able to make that lovely journey across the entire length of the digestive tract, showing us doctors a clear picture of what exactly is going on and the ability to take action from those results and ultimately save lives. Number 2, the Rewalk exoskeleton. You see, after a tragic accident left him paralyzed to the waist down, Israeli doctor Amit Gopher spent years developing a way for paraplegics, aka folks who have both of their legs paralyzed, to be able to walk, stand, and even climb stairs. And basically he did this by inventing some sort of wearable brace support system that is powered by a backpack battery. And this exoskeleton comes with a wristwatch that senses the smallest movements that the users make with their bodies, such as leaning forward, and that in turn sends signals to the motorized parts of the exoskeleton and the joints to move the braced areas of the hips and the knees to essentially mimic walking. You see, our brains are attached to the spinal cord, which is essentially like a wiring system that transmits signals from our brains downstream to the rest of our bodies. This spinal cord, as the name suggests, travels along the middle of the bones of our spines, and the neurons of the spinal cord branch out at every segment of the vertebrae, allowing our brains to control muscle groups, which in turn translates to our bodies making movement. That is why if there's any accident in which the spine accidentally cuts the neurological wiring of the spinal column, then unfortunately everything downstream of that cut loses the signaling from the brain, and that's what happens with paralyzed folks. Now, apart from the benefit that this Rewalk exoskeleton has of allowing these individuals to have the freedom to move around, and trust me, that's a really big thing, also one thing to keep in mind is that our muscles and blood flow adapt to the activity levels that we have. So for folks who are physically not able to move their legs, the muscles of the paralyzed areas with time start to shrink. That's what we call atrophy. And the blood supply to these areas also takes a hit. So by allowing folks with paralyzed muscles to move these extremities, this improves their muscle tone and circulation, and with that being said, just their overall quality of life. And number 3, the emergency bandage, aka the Israeli bandage. Now this one is definitely an underdog, but I love this one because of its simplicity yet effectiveness. You see, while training to become a military paramedic in the 1980s, Bernard Ben Natan noticed that the bandages he was using were manufactured in the 1940s and 30s. And for him, the final straw was when he was going under the training process. He was actually instructed that if there was ever a wound that just wouldn't clot on its own and that would just keep on bleeding, he was supposed to get a nearby stone and just apply it to the bleeding site and bandage it all up. Crazy, huh? So as part of Barnatan's outrage, he invented a simple bandage with a pressure applicator that applies 30 pounds of pressure to active bleeding sites. You see, our arteries are directly attached to the outflowing pumping mechanism of our hearts, which in turn make them a high pressure environment. So if a bullet or a car crash results in the shearing of an artery, massive amounts of pulsatile bleeding can occur, and arterial blood, my friends, contains all of the necessary oxygenation and nutrients that our tissues and organs need to survive. So in emergencies, stopping bleeding at all costs is key to survival. Now, the simplicity of this Israeli bandage allows it to be used by both medical and non-medical staff. And this type of bandage is currently being used by medics all around the world and by professional armies such as that of the US, Germany, and NATO forces as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are my top 3 Israeli medical innovations. By the way, there are tons of other medical inventions currently being developed that are really mind-blowing and that honestly look like they come out of a sci-fi book. But these inventions have yet to be widely used and most of them are pending FDA approval, so I just stuck with these conservative 3. But all of this is just to go to say that even though the tough history this tiny country has had to endure, the world has benefited immensely not only from Israel's ability to survive, but to thrive and be a leader in science and medical innovation. So in that spirit, I am wishing all my Israeli friends best wishes and much safety, and may you continue to be a leader in advancing medicine for all humanity. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, until next time.